Hello, and welcome to today's video. As the title has explained, today's video is all about the stuff that I keep in my pocket. Quite looking forward to doing this one. It's a nice end to this kind of run of videos I've done looking at equipment and things and how I've managed to refine it and get stuff sort of whittled down to the bare essentials. And this is a nice way to end it because this is quite personal equipment. So all the stuff that I'm going to look at today is things that are on my body at all times, whether I'm at home, in the woods, up in the mountains, at work, or wandering about town. Okay, maybe not just wandering about town though, might get in trouble for some of these things, but yeah, it's a thing that fascinates me. My background is in archaeology, which is you know, the study of things left behind by people, and the things that people carry as personal items I think is quite an interesting thing, because they're the things that you're using all the time. So this stuff gets used constantly and daily. Okay, this is stuff that is always being used, it's always in use, it's always in my pockets, it's always coming out of the pockets. It's good stuff. I'm going to try and get through it without waffling because there isn't much of it, it's quite minimal. I don't like to have lots of things in my pockets, it really irritates me, which is why I use like a belt pouch. So yeah, I'm going to readjust the camera so you can see kind of the tree stump, and then we'll go through it really quickly. Most of it's quite self-explanatory. I'm just doing this video because it's a subject that interests me. All right, let's have a look. Okay, so hopefully the camera will stay focused. It likes to mess around when it's close in like this, but I'll do my best. So the first item I'm going to show you is not directly bushcraft relevant, but it is something that I guarantee almost all of you carry in your pocket, which is this. It is my mobile phone. I like to have this on me at all times for a number of reasons, and I'm going to kind of relate this to the outdoors. All right, so my phone is my emergency contact, it is a backup torch, it's a GPS device, it's a useful piece of equipment. Generally in the UK you've got access to 4G and the internet everywhere, so it's great for reference. You can use it for taking photographs, which is its primary use for me. It's a good thing to carry. A lot of people sort of poo-poo carrying phones and stuff into the woods with them. What ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous notion. You don't have to be on it all the time, but it's a good thing to carry. You know, if you get into trouble, you can call for help using this. It's a good thing to have. Personally, I quite like to sit and edit photographs on it in the evening. I like to take photographs on it. It allows me to kind of keep in contact with you guys and, you know, post things in sort of real time in terms of like Instagram stories and photographs, stuff like that. So it lives with me all the time. If I'm out for an extended period of time, it does stay switched off, because that means that I don't have to carry quite as many power banks with me, and I can reserve that power for cameras and other things. But it lives there all the time. Also, if you see my first aid video, you'll know there's tick cards and stuff in the front there, because it's also my wallet, this. Okay. Next two items. The next two items are things which actually don't live in my pockets. They're in there today for the purposes of filming, but they actually live on my belt. And I didn't want to be able to take my belt off to show you. So the first of these is a Gerber multi-tool. Useful bit of kit, mainly in use for the set of pliers that it is. Great for gripping hold of things, repairing crampons, lifting pans off the fire that, you know, maybe the handle's fallen into the fire. It's a useful little thing. I'll quite often use the measurements on this as well if I'm carving and stuff. It's just a handy bit of kit to have, and that lives on my belt in its belt pouch. That's an old one, that was given to me a few weeks ago. Next thing is quite similar, which is a small Swiss Army knife. So this has a piece of paracord on it, as you can see here. That gets attached directly to my belt and then sort of sits in my pocket. Paracord means I'm not going to drop it or lose it, because it's physically attached to me, and it also means that if I've got other bits and pieces in my pocket that, you know, I've just shoved in there, like a litter or whatever, I can just kind of pull this out without having to rummage around for it, and I've got quick access to it. I think this is the Huntsman model. It's got this handy little screwdriver which I use a lot for doing stuff with my camera, you know, like adjusting things. Turning my microphone on because it's broken. It's a handy piece of equipment. It's a little toolbox in your pocket. This is a nice one because it's got Forester Bushcraft written on it, so a bit of sentimental value as well there, if I can just get the camera to focus. Really nice bit of kit. Yeah, I like that. It's one of the most used items that I own, actually. That my sister got me a few years ago. I really love it. Okay, next up we have nothing in that pocket. Okay, here we go. We've got a lighter. Self-explanatory. It's good for lighting fires, melting bits of paracord, sterilising first aid things, burning tissue paper. Useful bit of kit. I actually usually carry 3 or 4 of these, so I've got one in my first aid kit, I've got one in my toilet kit, I've got one in my cable bag and one in my pocket. Seems like slightly overkill for them, but I do kind of acquire them from time to time and then just shove them in a pocket somewhere. They don't work when they're wet, the fuel does run out of them, they do break, so it's good to have backups of that. It's just a nice firelighting piece of equipment that lives in there. Next up we have a pen. So pen is it's just a little clicky ballpoint pen given to me a while ago by Mr. Paul Dorr Bushcraft. Clicky ballpoint pen for taking notes, writing on the back of your hand, stuff like that. But this one in particular is the type that I like to carry. It's got a little stylus on it. As I said earlier, one of my things that I like to do of an evening is to sit and edit photographs using the Lightroom app on my phone, and having a stylus on there makes it easier, especially if it's cold weather. It means I don't have to take my gloves off to operate my phone, so that just lives in my pocket. Yeah, cool. So that's it for those 2 main pockets there. I've got one other item that I'm going to show you later on out of them, but I'm going to move on to the next lot of stuff. Cuts kit. That lives in my kind of trouser pocket here. I have one of these on my belt kit and I have one in my bag. They get used a lot. I'm always cutting myself on things. I like to have one in my pocket so that if I have got a cut and it's cold and it's bleeding quite a lot, you know, I'm not going to get blood all over my bag trying to get to the first aid kit, or it's not going to go all over my belt pouch. I can just whip this out, stick a plaster on, job's a good one. Okay. If I'm hiking, I'll shove a couple of blister plasters in there. I don't tend to keep them in there permanently because they do go a bit manky once they've been warm for a while up against your body. So that just lives in there. If you want to see the contents of that, go and check out my first aid video. Next thing, in the little sort of organiser part of the Fjallraven trousers, I have a Light My Fire fire steel. Again, it's for firelighting. It's got a little whistle on it. I do have one on my belt pouch, on my belt as well, attached to my knife. But I do like to keep a spare because they do get lost easily. I've had both of mine for a number of years now and never lost them, but it's just nice to have that backup. There's nothing worse than going out into the woods and realising you've no way of lighting the fire. So I've got 2 methods of firelighting here, and then sort of 3, all 2 the same when I've got my belt pouch on. And finally, in this pocket, the most valuable piece of equipment I have in my pockets, I think, and it is a little Write in the Rain notepad. I go through loads of these. I like this size. It fits in the Fjallraven pockets perfectly. They're absolutely bomb-proof. Like, they just don't die. You can just keep throwing weather at them, and they're good. So in here, it's not like for anything specific, it's just for note taking, ideas that pop into my head for like videos, articles, things like that. They go in there. Checklists for work, jotting down bits of navigational stuff, checklists of equipment before I go out. One of the things that I do is if I'm going out for like an overnight or a weekend away or a hike or whatever, I write a full list of my equipment that I've taken with me, and I try to remember to just kind of, each time I use an item, I check it off, and then if there's an item in that equipment list that is consistently not being used, therefore I'm like, it's not essential unless it's something like a first aid kit, and I just go, right, well I don't need to take that anymore, and it just helps me to refine my kit. It's easy to carry a lot of junk if you don't stay on top of it. Okay, next 2 items aren't exactly pocket items, but they are personal items that are on my body at all times. The first one is this. It is my Garmin Fenix 5 watch. This is a new edition. I used to just use like a cheap Casio digital watch for keeping track of the time, but this thing is actually brilliant for the outdoors. It's a GPS device. It's got an SOS system on it. It's got step counter, heart rate monitor. It's even got a compass on it, and honestly the bearings that you can take off it are fairly accurate, like impressively accurate. Not that I would rely on them, but the GPS on this is a good backup to my phone and my map and navigational skills. It's just nice to have it. I get about a week and a half's battery life off this, and I always have cables for charging things with me. It's waterproof, durable. Really good bit of kit. I'm really loving this. If people want a review of this at some point, I'm happy to do one. Okay, next to last thing is this small sort of necklace on me, which is quite cool. I bought it originally because it's cool, but it's become like a fixed piece of equipment. It's just an antler thing with a birch rune carved in it. I chose the birch rune because, you know, bushcraft, it's the bushcraft tree. But this little sliding bit here, let's take it off and show you that close up if I can. This little slidey bit here is actually like a mini fire striker. It's tricky to use and it does need something to strike it on, but I have used it. There's been a couple of times where I've gone out and just been like, oh, I haven't got a fire striker with me. I want to get a fire going for a brew, and I've used it. It's difficult, but it works. But what's interesting is this little pointy antler thing here. I actually use it all the time for weird stuff. It's not sharp, so it's not going to dig into me and do me any damage. But yeah, I've used it for like picking bits of stuff out of trees, and it's hard to explain, but I do kind of use it for just kind of picking at things. I've used it for like burnishing bits of wood when I've been doing some carving and stuff like that. Plus it just looks cool and it kind of lives on me permanently. Alright, so that is my pocket carry. I've got one other item in my pocket which I'm going to show you. It's a bit of a random one, so I'm going to readjust the camera to show you that. So let's take a look. So, last item in my pocket actually lives here, lives all the time. I'll quite often just kind of have my hand on it when I'm sort of walking around. And no, it isn't anything rude, it is an item that is in my pocket. It's just kind of a comfort thing to kind of hold on to it. And it's quite interesting because I won this in a competition while I was in the East, doing a bit of caving. Got into a competition with a guy, and what it is, it's a small ring. And it's not really entirely bushcraft related, but it is quite useful because when we put it on, suddenly it's really easy to get close to wildlife and things like that. It's unusual. So yeah, I tend to try and keep that in my pocket at all times. Ta-da! So that lives straight in there. It's very, I really like it. It's very precious to me. So there we go. That is my pocket contents, the contents of my pockets. Hope you enjoyed this. I'm really interested to know if you guys carry different stuff. Remember, there's things that you're going to say should probably be in there. Have a look at the other videos. I do carry a belt pouch as well that contains a bunch of stuff, and I do have an extra pocket on these trousers that stays empty so that if I get a bit too hot I can whip my hat off and stick it in the pocket out of the way. But I'm not too hot today, it's actually quite cold, so I'm keeping that on. Alright, so as always, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you've got something out of it. I've been interested to do it. It's a nice quick one to do. Yeah, cool. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you like this hoodie that I'm wearing, this hoodie and this pendant and my t-shirt underneath are all from Descended from Odin. The t-shirt and the hoodie are both 100% merino wool. The hoodie's a really nice base layer. I live in them in the outdoors now. Comes up nice like that. And there is a link to these items below. The merino t-shirts at the time of filming this are on 3 for 2, and you can get 10% off if you use the code Forrester at checkout. So go and check those out. Yeah, they're actually really good. As always, thank you all for watching. Stay tuned for the next video. Hopefully this year I'll be able to get more out. The weather will be a bit kinder to us. Let me know what you thought in the comments. Feel free to give this video a share, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye for now.